to the Real Life Entrepreneur. My name is Al, and this podcast is literally for every single entrepreneur or person who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. So my goal is to either encourage you or discourage you from becoming an entrepreneur. Or if it's something that you want to do, you'll realize that through listening to this podcast and also listening to other people who are here, some of the guests that I'll bring on, you'll decide if it's something that's for you or not for you. But the truth is, I've been on social media and I've seen a lot of different podcasts, and I'm getting a lot of the fluff, and no one's giving you details, and nobody's really telling you how it really is. So I'm going to be giving you a lot of the real deal, the mistakes, the trials, the tribulations, all of that. I'm going to give you everything that you need tonight. Tonight, there is no guest. I'm the guest tonight. So we'll talk a little bit about me, and then we'll jump into tonight's topic. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is me. My name is Aldian Otto. I am a serial entrepreneur. I've had several businesses over the last 10 years or so after leaving corporate America. And what I realized is leaving corporate America 10 years ago is the best thing of my life. I've never once considered going back to corporate America after becoming an entrepreneur. And it's worked out well for me, and I want it to work out the same way for you. So I'll give you some of the pitfalls, some of the things that I never learned. I come from a fatherless home. I didn't have anyone to teach me this. So I've had to go through all the hardships. I've lost a god-awful amount of money in learning all these things. And it was only until recently that I realized that I've always come from the school where the game is to be sold, not told. However, with everything that's happening in the world and people are giving more and more information, you're so easily misled just with false information or people making things look so easy. I just decided that this was the thing that I wanted to do, and perfect timing, perfect partners, and a good space in my life where now I could kind of impart some of these things. So let's jump right into it. Tonight's topic and what I wanted to talk about is literally just start. All right, so if you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking about doing any kind of business venture, there is no safety net. You will make mistakes. You'll hit your face a couple of times, and that's all right. That happens, right? But it's pick yourself up and continue to drive forward. So the main parts of this tonight is just to say, no matter what happens, if you decide to start or if you're considering it and you feel like it's a thing for you to do, it's okay. You could do it. It'll work out. It'll work out exactly how it's supposed to. You will never fail because you will always learn. And the only time you fail is when you give up or when you stop. So with that being said, let's talk about a couple of mistakes that I made, when I first got into business. Some of those mistakes are, I'm just being random here, but we're talking about the people that you decide to do business with. That's a really, really important thing, right? A lot of times I listen to these podcasts, I read a lot of books, and some of the things that they're not telling us is, how to choose the people that we want to work with. When you get into business and you're looking at partnerships, they're like marriages, right? And once you get in, you're stuck with that person. It's easy to get into, but it's hard to get out of, especially if you're a person that's organized, you have stuff together, you have contracts, and then it becomes ugly if that relationship doesn't work out. So you want to make sure that you choose the right partner if you decide to partner with someone. Now, there's advantages and disadvantages of partnerships. One major advantage is, all the liability is not on you. You have someone that's going to go through the fire with you, going to help you grow. You know the old school saying, right? Two heads are always better than one. So you have that going for you with the partnership. You have someone that you can bounce ideas of. You can talk to daily about some of the things that's going on in business, where in your personal life, you may or may not be able to talk to your spouse, your girl, your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, whoever it is, right? The disadvantages, or a small disadvantage to having partners, is that the decision process is more difficult, because now it takes two people to make a decision, where if you're the sole leader or owner of a business, you get 100%. You get to 100% make all the decisions, which makes things easier, makes the decision process easier, And not only easier, sometimes you have to make decisions right away and you don't have time to bounce it off someone else, right? So just one or two of, the pros and cons of partners, right? My background is simply this. I'm an Army veteran. After getting out of the Army, I went to corporate America. I was working for a company that they had 16 billion in assets. I was making that company, give or take, about 12 million a year. My salary was maybe 50, 60 grand, maybe with bonuses, I might have touched 70, 80 grand, right? But when I looked at what I was making that company, and then I looked at, well, if I can make a small fraction of that, I'd be happy. And so my decision to make or to leave corporate America was really simple. It's all about, well, man, if I was making them 12, if I only made me 1, I'd be extremely happy. So for me, it was a no-brainer, but it took time. It took planning. It took 6 months for me to really plan and to decide exactly what I was going to do and then jump right into it, right? Now, hopefully while I'm going through all of this, I'm not too monotone. You might be, I just don't want you to get too bored, but I want you to pay attention to some of the content. I'm going to get detailed in a lot of things and in future episodes. I think tonight is really more of just, a small get to know you kind of thing. So you're getting to know me, I'm getting to know you. We're going to become friends and we're going to make this thing work. And we're going to go through the decision-making process. So if you want to decide to be an entrepreneur, I'm here to help. If you decide to continue with, that 9-to-5 grind, that might be the best decision for you. And I don't want you to get twisted at all. Millionaires are created in different ways. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to become a millionaire. You can work a regular 9-to-5 job and invest wisely and still become a millionaire. So if your ultimate goal is to get financial freedom or set yourself up, well, you can get to the same goal using both methods. The only difference is sometimes being an entrepreneur, you may be able to get to that goal faster versus if you just work a 9-to-5, then obviously, you have to clock in for a certain amount of hours, and then obviously a good portion of your life before you can really enjoy that fruit of your labor, right? Anyway, let's jump back into it. So tonight, what I want to emphasize mostly is no matter what I talk to you about today, no matter what I discuss, if it's detailed, if you agree with me, if you don't agree with me, the one thing that 100% of you will agree with me is that the only way to know is just to get started. And that's tonight's topic, just get started. So let's dive into it a little bit. When deciding what to do, right? You want to know, hey, I want to start a business. There's lots of advantages to having a business. There's lots of disadvantages to having a business. But before even jumping into that, the very first thing you need a want, right? You need the desire. So as long as you desire to do something outside of what you currently do, you're on the right track. The desire is what really comes first. Now, the second part to that is once you have the desire, now you have to plan. Back in the day when I was in the military, they used to always say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I've always taken that throughout all my ventures. You have to have a good plan, a good foundation. So you go from desire to planning to action, right? So there's a couple of things that you want to do. This episode, like I said, me touching on a couple of different things is probably going to be shorter than normal, but we'll make sure that we stretch the content out and make sure that you get as much detail as possible, especially when I start bringing on some subject matter experts. Now, my goal is I don't want to bring anyone on this podcast that you're going to readily know or you can readily identify. They're not going to be super popular. What they are going to be is super successful at every single thing that they do. So if I bring on an entrepreneur who has a business who is extremely successful, he's going to give you the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, and I'm going to be the person that'll narrate and ask the questions and be your host. While I may bring on someone who just works corporate America, and that person might be a specialist and he or she is extremely successful at what they do. I'll try to mix it up with the groups of people, the different types of personalities, My personality, I have a personality where I might be able to get along with anyone, man. Like, it's not in an insincere way. You have to have people skills. If you run a business, any kind of business, your people skills have to be, when I tell you excellent, you have to have excellent people skills. If you don't have excellent people skills, running a business is going to be extremely difficult. And it doesn't matter if it's a service that you provide or a product that you sell. No matter what it is, you will always need to deal with people. You will need partnerships. You will need different relationships. What has brought me the furthest throughout anything that I've done has always been my relationships. So you just want to make sure that you're maintaining great relationships. So let's just jump into it. I have 11 things listed, right? And, when we decided to do this podcast, we might have thought about this a couple days, and then we put it together, came up with a quick game plan. And as soon as we come up with that game plan, we started execute. I can't imagine that this took more than a week to put together, but I know you're going to get some amazing things for a very long time. So let's jump into some of the things that you have to think about. I've identified 11 things that I want to talk to you about, right? Now, the first thing that you want to figure out is you want to know what kind of entity that you're going to set up. And how do you make that determination? Well, it depends on what field you're getting in, right? What product you're going to sell. You're looking at what are your protections? What are you looking for, right? Are you looking for protections against liabilities, where you might consider, an LLC? Are you looking for tax benefits, where you might look at something like either an LLC or an S Corp with an S election, right? So there's different things that you want to consider when opening up a business, and that's probably one of the most important things, because that's the foundation. And really what you want to do is you want to be able to talk to, what I would suggest you do is, and especially if money is tight, there's tons of people who are in the tax business now. You can get with an accountant, a friend, you can Google. But my one thing about Google is this, and I'm sorry to digress, but I'm going to do that every now and then. Google will tell you what you want to hear. So if I get on Google and I say, hey, let's talk about Corona real quick, right? That's the big thing. So if I get on Google and I say, hey, will Corona, will the vaccine kill me? Or better yet, you can state it as vaccine kills people. And you'll get everything that will back up that claim because you believe it and that's what you typed in. But if you say the vaccine saves lives and you Google that, guess what's going to come up? Everything about the vaccine being able to save lives. So at some point you have to be cognizant of what you're putting in your search tools, some of the search tools you're using, and some of the information that you're getting. Also, you want to make sure that you're getting things from credible sources. But like I said, it's reaching out to people who know. If you don't know anyone and you have specific questions, we're on all these platforms. You can always message us, leave a comment, DM, whatever you need to do, and we'll do our best to get back to you. So that's the very first thing. You want to look at the type of entity that you want to put together. Now the next thing is, you want to get into a business, but do you know what you're doing? Do you know what it's about? What is your knowledge base on this business? What do you know anything about this business? And too often, a lot of us who jump into business, we have no clue what we're doing. And that's probably one of the biggest things. That's where the most hurt will come in, is when you jump into something, it sounds good, but you don't know the details and you know how to get it done. And that all stems from lack of planning, but more so lack of preparation for that task, right? So that's a big thing. It's really knowing your subject. And even if you're not a specialist, right? What I've learned over the years about, especially me being an entrepreneur, is I am not a specialist. So, for example, I'm not always the smartest person in the room. And you always hear people say, hey, never be the smartest person in the room. Well, there's some truth to that, right? What I always say is, never be the smartest person in the room, but never be the dumbest person in the room either, right? So I just kind of added on to that. As an entrepreneur, what you'll learn is that when you're running a business, especially when you start to scale, you realize that you need people who are much smarter than you at what they actually do. And a great man once said, just because somebody is smarter than you doesn't mean they get they get to be paid more than you. So just because somebody's smarter than you doesn't mean that they're gonna make more money than you. You're the boss. It's your company. They just work there. Let them do their jobs, and they'll be extremely intelligent about their jobs, and they'll move on about their way. And you'll be the one you're the captain of the ship. So when it comes to that, that's kind of where I fall in terms of that. Let's move on to a product or service that you're looking for, right? So if I want to get into business and I'm trying to identify a product, well, I think the first thing you have to really think about is there a need for that product? And it's just like a service too. Is there a need for service? So what I always tell potential or new entrepreneurs when they're starting out is identify something that is needed. So you want to be in a need-based business, right? There's several need-based business. I could list them out. I could list the ones that probably won't go away, right? You're looking at taxes, real estate, and insurance. Those are like the top 3 ones that will never go away. So if you're thinking about something that you can go into and it will last as long as you can make it last, I would definitely start with those 3. Now, in terms of products, right? If you have a great idea, a great invention, a product that hasn't been sold, maybe there's a need for a product that you've identified, and that product doesn't exist, and you're the one to create it, then there's some steps to, making that happen as well. But as long as whatever you're doing, whether it's a product or a service, as long as it's need-based, you will always make money. All right? So that's just kind of my overview on that particular thing. You just need a market demand for your product and your services, right? A lot of times people get into business and they also realize that, man, I'm going to make a god-awful amount of money. And it's so easy to make the money. The most difficult part of it is to keep that money, right? Because once you start making that money, everyone knows you got money. Because you start showing it, you start moving different. And you got to be careful about that. So, one thing that we don't think about when, we get extremely happy and excited about, oh my God, I looked at the projections and, if I do this, this, and this, I'm going to make this, this, and that. Well, one of the biggest things is we don't think about cost, right? So we're looking at your capital. This is your initial startup money. Okay, you need money to run and operate that business. You have to think about those things. So, excuse me, what is it gonna cost to do this business? What is it gonna cost to make this product? What is it gonna cost for me to offer this service to other people? Those are the things that you really have to be more detailed about. And what I really wanna do to truly help is I wanna go through all of these things in detail. So when we're looking at things like a budget, coming up with a budget, coming up with a proposal, working on business plans. These are all the things that we want to get into in some of the later episodes, and I'll bring in some subject matter experts, especially the ones that you don't know, but they're extremely successful in everything that they do, and they'll touch on some of these subjects with you and for you, right? So right now it's more of just an overview with a lot of realness to it. Right? The things that they aren't telling us. I'm just trying to give you a good idea of what to really expect. So that's something that you want to pay attention to, which is your cost to do business, right? What is it going to take for me to become successful at this business? How much money will it take, right? Now, when you look at things like that and you say, okay, I'm going to make $1 million. Well, the truth is, it's not just I'm gonna make $1 million, right? Because now you have to start thinking about things like your margins. What does it cost? Then you look at your return on investment, right? A lot of people throw the word ROI around, or like those acronyms, and a lot of times they're not even taking the time to explain those things to us. So we're starting with some really basic things, but we'll grow and grow and grow together more and more, so that way you can just learn as these episodes go on. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was competition. So a lot of times people decide that they don't want to become entrepreneurs only because whatever the thing is that they wanted to do is too much competition. They feel like it's saturated, so they're like, hey, I'm not gonna do it. But you know what? The truth is simply this. No one can do what you do. You gotta believe that. So maybe what makes you special at doing what everyone else does is what's going to make you successful. So you can't focus on everyone else. A big part of what I do is I never focus on my competition. I always know what they're doing, but I never focus on my competition. To me, truly, and I mean this 100%, my only competition is me. That's a fact. I feel like I go in any room and I close any deal. This is the confidence I built over time. But I started with confidence, and maybe my confidences grew maybe a little bit more. But I've always remained confident. I know for sure that if I go in a room, I have a deal on the table, I feel my investor, I'm gonna close. If that investor is, if I'm offering a product, or not only an investor, it could be a sale, right? It could be a service that I'm offering. Whatever it is, I am here to close. And I think that's one of the biggest things. We all pay attention to what everyone else is doing, and so we worry about the competition. But the truth of the matter is, your competition means absolutely nothing. No one could do you like you can do you. No one could do what you do better than you. You are you. You're the one. You got to focus on what you do. So if you identify something that you love and you like, and a million other people do it, no one can do it like you, and you're going to be extremely successful. So you got to give it a shot. At the end of the day, if you try it and you fail, remember what I said before, right? You never fail unless you quit. So as long as you don't quit, you'll never fail. You just get a lot of lessons. All right? So just always remember that there'll always be competition in the marketplace. It's very rare that someone will come up with an idea that's 100% original. A lot of times, a lot of things that we're doing has always been there, and it's really for us to just dig in and make it happen, and make it happen for us. So that's the number 7, I believe, is competition. Let's talk about things that I think entrepreneurs don't really focus on, right? And we're talking about distribution channels. What do you think a distribution channel is? You know, it's the different way that you get your product and services out to the marketplace, right? These are some of the things that go into proper planning. Remember what I said at the beginning. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you always want to make sure that you clearly identify what your distribution channels are and how to effectively use those to accomplish all your goals, right? I'm actually I had someone perfect in mind that will cover distribution channels the next time that we link up. And I'm telling you, this person is perfect. They're on their job. They know exactly what to do, and they're going to get it done. They're going to give us more details on distribution channels. I don't want to touch on it too much tonight, but we will move into it at another time. All right. Let's move on to the next one, though. So the next one I have is regulations. So it could be regulations, it could be laws, anything that really govern your business from a government standpoint. Every single business has laws and rules and all of these things that we have to follow. So my personal advice is follow the rules. Do the best you can to follow the rules. And you'll realize that over time, in trying to start a business, running a business, you want to break some of the rules. There's different things. Let's talk about one of the 3 need-based businesses really quick, and I'll give you an example. A lot of times people will want to get into real estate, right? And you want to sell real estate. Let's say you want to sell real estate to people. We're not talking about wholesaling or anything like that, but you just want to sell real estate. And then you decide, all right, you see somebody sell real estate, you can do it. Truth is, if you don't get a license, you're going to end up in jail, right? So it's just really simple things, following the rules, making sure that you don't get jammed up, because at the end of the day, they're looking for us to make a mistake so they could put us behind bars. You know what it is. The next thing that I want to talk about is the technology. Some of the things that you need to use to ensure that you're successful. So a lot of times now, especially in this day and age, everything is about technology. So no matter what area you get into, ensure that you're in some type of some of the tools that you use, the technology that you use to ensure that your business or your service or your products are successful is at the forefront of innovation. We live in a time where, in my mind, right, and only in my mind, and this podcast is really about things that I experience and what I'm going through and my thought process on how things are going to work. So, don't take this to the bank. It's just for you to kind of have another perspective. But for me, I look at things like cash. I think cash is going to be non-existent in the very near future. Think about places that you already go to that don't accept cash, right? And so they all use technology to do these things. You look at going to McDonald's. I remember I used to go to McDonald's and I used to see 6, 7, 8, 9 people working back there, flipping burgers, getting the fries, one person doing this, 3 people taking orders. And then now I go to McDonald's and I see kiosks. So that means we're losing our jobs to technology. But it doesn't have to be a negative thing for you as an entrepreneur. You just need to know that going into it, technology needs to be a big part of everything that you're trying to do. It doesn't matter if you have a product, a service, you just want to be forefront. You want to be at the forefront of that. All right. So that's my take on technology. And like I said, every single thing that we're talking about, we'll revisit another time in another podcast. So my last thing and my biggest thing is partners, right? How do you choose the right partner to work with? You know, we spoke about this a little bit at the beginning, and I feel like it's only fitting that I put it here twice. That's how important it is. When choosing a partner, you know, there's clues that you look for. And I think choosing the right partner takes time. I don't think you should partner up with someone right away. And I think in the next podcast, maybe episode 3, what I want to do is I want to really break down some of the terrible partnerships that I've had, right? We're looking at things from backstabbing, and that covers a wide range of things, right? But then you're looking at other things like ineptitude. You're looking at things like oh my God. One that frustrates me the most is when you have a partner that procrastinates. They know how to get the job done. They know what to do, but for some reason they can't get it done in a timely manner. And that will screw everything up, because everything that you do, especially when running a business, you'll realize that timing is everything. And so if things aren't getting done, you're going to lose out in a big way. So just be careful about choosing your partners. I think I actually might want to have just a whole podcast on just partners, right? Looking at some of the traits of great partners. And doesn't necessarily mean that partner has to be an alpha. Sometimes you can find amazing partners who are beta, but they're really good at executing. And then you look at some partners that you might want to take on an alpha because maybe you're not the person that will lead or head that ship. You might have the great ideas, but you want someone that be able to execute those plans for you, right? So in just recapping really quick, let's just go over a couple of things that we talked about. We talked about the type of entity that you need to set up. We talked about having knowledge and just being a subject matter expert. We talked about market demand for your product and services. We talked about total project costs, your financing and capital, your return on investment. We talked about the competition. We talked about some of your distribution channels. We talked about regulations governing the business. We talked about technology. And most importantly of all, we talked about partnerships and the types of partner that, you know, you need to pick. But out of everything there, none of that shit matters unless you get started. So my biggest thing to you is just get off your ass and get started. That's really what it takes. There's nothing else matters. I could give you all the game in the world, but if you don't start, none of it counts, right? So over the years, I've been running my business for 10 years. Actually, we're coming up on 10 years. So 10 seasons this year. I'm coming up on my 6th season in another business, and I'm coming up on my 1st season. Believe it or not, I love entrepreneurship so much that I decided to do it again. And so I'm at a new venture now, right? But a lot of people over the years have asked me why I've never taught, or why don't I share this information, or why don't I teach, or why. Well, you know what it is? I look at social media now and I look at the people who are teaching, and they all look great, feel great, sound great. But the one thing I realize is that they're making money from selling you books and courses and all of this. I'm still in the game. Like I'm fresh in the game. I still got a lot of energy. I'm still doing. So it's extremely difficult for me to do and teach at the same time because both require so much energy. However, I'm gonna do my very best to ensure that I am giving you all the knowledge that you need and you're living vicariously through me as I continue to do the best that I can to succeed in business. So with that being said, much love, and we'll chop it up another time. Catch y'all next episode.